Let's talk about sautéing. This is our next module in the classroom. Next technique video, I'm going to tell you a little bit more in depth about sautéing. So basically, we're going to start with onions, then we're going to talk about garlic. It's all going to go into here. So I've got my burner on the number 5, and it's 5 out of 9, so it's kind of a medium heat. The first thing we're going to talk about is sweating an onion. And that's when you start to saute the onion, but you're not adding any color. So basically what you're doing is you're turning it into translucent is what it's called. So I'm going to pick all this onion up. It's probably more than I need. Oops, for what I'm doing. So there's different ways you can do it. You can saute the onion first and then put the meat in. You can put the meat in first and add the onions a little bit later. It all depends on what you're doing. When you're cooking ground beef or chicken, what you want to do is keep the temperature on really high because you want to brown it. I'm not saying high, like medium high, because you want to brown that meat, because the browning, the caramelization of the sugars and the meat juices really adds flavor. If you put the onions in first, then cook the meat on a higher temperature, you're going to burn the onions. So what you do is you brown the meat, and once you've got the meat nice and brown, then you can add the onions, because you don't need to brown the onions necessarily when you're doing that. But because the temperature is a little bit higher, you will pick up some browning of the onions while you're finishing cooking the meat. So that's fine. But for today, what we're talking about is the first thing is sweating the onion. So we've got a little bit of oil in the pan. Spread the onions out to one layer, and you can hear it sizzling a bit. But what we're doing is we are looking to cook the onion without browning it. So this is on a lower temperature. If I see this starting to brown, I'm going to turn down the temperature. The problem is if you cook them too fast and you brown them too quickly, then they become hard and the texture stands out. So you want to do a gentle saute. If I see this temperature getting a little too warm, like I said, I will turn it down. Now the garlic can be added at different points in your recipe, and it gives it a different flavor. If you add the garlic right from the beginning and let it cook really well, you get a deep, almost sweet flavor of the garlic. If you add it at the last minute, you get that bright, almost spicy flavor. A lot of chefs will add it at both times so that you get a greater depth of flavor, but we're not going to confuse us for this right now. We're going to stick with just one way. So I've already given you the video on how to peel and chop garlic. So I'm just going to do this quick so that it's ready when I'm ready. And you see the onions are in the pan now. I have an editing moment here in a moment. Okay. Onions chopped and ready to go. You can see the onions. They're turning clear. They're becoming translucent. I'm going to turn the oven down a little bit the burner, because we're still trying to saute them without browning. And I have a couple pieces that got brown, and that's fine. You can see that this happens not just with new chefs, but any kind of chef, right? So it's got a little brown, so I turned the temperature down, and I probably knew that 5 was too high. There you can see there's a couple brown bits. It's not the end of the world, but for the most part, it's becoming translucent and it's just simmering at a nice temperature. So that is how you sweat onions. Now I'm going to turn the temperature up a little bit more, because now I'm going to intentionally brown it, but I'm going to stay right by it while I'm browning it a little more, because I don't want to burn it. So the temperature goes up a little bit, and I stir it so that it browns but doesn't burn. Now we can get into caramelizing onions. That's an entirely different process where you keep it at that lower temperature for a long, long time until it starts to very gently brown and becomes really sweet. So you can see I'm starting to get a little more browning because I turned the temperature up, and I'm stirring it so that it doesn't brown too much. It doesn't burn, it just gets brown. We haven't even put the garlic in because the garlic can be in there for 10 minutes, it can be in there for 10 seconds, and you're going to get different flavors, but both make a delicious dish. So this is how you're going to start out with your anything that you're making that involves onions and meat or vegetables or whatever. Onions are the ones that you bring out the flavor, you cook them for the longest. Remember what I said though, if you're browning the meat, you have to brown the meat first or you'll burn the onions. So brown the meat, let it start to get browned on both sides, then you add the onions to finish browning the meat and start cooking the onions. There you can see they're really nice and golden. The color's coming along nice. All right, so they're nice and brown. Not too brown, not burnt, just nice. So I'm going to add the garlic now. And you can immediately smell the garlic. And you'll see some recipes will say saute the garlic until fragrant, right? Pretty ambiguous because it's fragrant as soon as it puts it in the pan. So what I'm telling you is that if you want to cook it for a few moments to bring out the sweety, nutty taste of the garlic, you absolutely can. If you want to leave it just like it is now with that bright flavor, then you can do that too. And that is a really nice base for any other meal that you're going to do. This is how you start the onion and garlic sauteing process. The important thing is that you're standing there watching it. You don't abandon it. You don't just let it sit and wander off. So now I'm putting some chicken into the pan because the chicken doesn't have to be browned in this situation. And because I'm making the most of this video to show you the techniques. So I'm going to brown the chicken a little bit, but not much, because I'm going to be cooking it in coconut milk, and that will make sure the chicken cooks very nicely. And so as long as I keep the temperature at a decent point, we'll start to cook the chicken and we won't burn the onions. But the only reason I'm doing it like this is because I am showing you the options. But I really recommend, if you want to brown the chicken, to do the chicken first, then add the onions partway through cooking the chicken. That's how you know you're going to be safe and not have burnt onions. But it really looks nice. You can see the color of the onions. It's great. If you want to learn to be comfortable in the kitchen, to create meals rather than just follow recipes, join my school community, which is the Cooking School. And you'll find my link in the bio.
闪闪 beautiful， 闪闪动听的痛，你变宣布的像乌龟都能痛。3分听到的声，3分你不的钟，你变上哭的像你的伤放痛。我们在痛，不是的最后个激动，你的旋角装个中洞，藏着嘀咕笛子得激动。闪滴滴滴不公，闪闪电棒放痛，你变上不的像拼在人被沟通。闪闪的变得痛，闪闪的变得痛，闪闪的变得痛，换了你一点点激动。闪闪闪滴的滴，闪闪动滴的滴，你变上不的像故事的山风痛。我们在痛，不是的最后的激动，你的旋转中个中洞，藏着屁股笛子得激动。傻傻的听得懂，傻傻电棒放动，你点上不的像拼在这被抖动。傻傻傻傻傻傻傻傻傻傻傻闪闪闪 beautiful， 闪闪动听得懂，你变上不的像你在上风动。我们在痛，不是的最后的激动，你的旋转中个中洞，藏着屁股笛子得激动。傻傻傻傻傻傻傻傻傻傻 beautiful， 闪闪动听得懂，你的上哭的像你在上放动。我们在痛，不是的最后的激动。傻傻的 beautiful， 傻傻傻动动，傻傻傻 beautiful， 傻傻动听得懂，你的上不的像你在上放动。傻傻傻傻的动，傻动动，傻傻傻 beautiful， 傻傻傻动动，傻傻傻傻傻傻傻傻傻傻 beautiful， 傻傻傻傻动动，傻傻傻。